From the Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. A new study has found that firearm deaths amongst children in the United States have increased by 87% over the past decade. A study in the Pediatrics Journal has found that non-fatal injuries decreased by more than half over the same period. However, non-fatal and fatal firearm and drug poisoning injuries increased. The researchers attributed the decline in non-fatal injuries to public health measures, such as improvements in motor vehicle safety, helmet technology, and child restraints. They also note that the firearms industry lobbies against laws to reduce gun violence, such as red flag laws, universal background checks, and assault weapon bans. The study comes amid a growing crisis of gun violence in the United States. In 2022, firearms overtook car crashes as a leading cause of death for children in the U.S. Earlier this week, data from the Gun Violence Archive showed that more than 1,300 children and teens have already been killed by guns this year. Former President Donald Trump has appealed to a federal judge in Washington to dismiss the charges related to the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Trump was referring to presidential immunity. His lawyers submitted a 50-page document to the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. It argues that a president is absolutely immune from prosecution if their actions fall within their official duties. They cited the Supreme Court case Nixon-Fitzgerald, where the court decided 5-4 that a president cannot be held liable for damages if the actions were within his official responsibility. Trump is currently facing 4 criminal counts related to January 6th, initiated by the U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith. The charges involve conspiracies to defraud the U.S. government and against rights. Despite pleading not guilty to these, they are part of over 90 charges spread across 4 cases against him. In contrast, the Justice Department argued that official duty does not offer blanket immunity for all presidential actions. They emphasized that inciting imminent violence might not be covered by this immunity. Congresswoman Tlaib is calling for a probe into the United States Postal Service's 10-year plan. It was formulated by Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. Critics fear that this overhaul, dubbed by some as an austerity measure, could severely damage one of the government's most reputable agencies. The Michigan Congresswoman expressed her worries in a letter to U.S. Postal Service Inspector General Tammy Hull. She wrote that DeJoy's 10-year plan seems to steer the USPS towards privatization, job reductions, service disruptions, and overall dysfunction. Louis DeJoy, known for his substantial donations to the Republican Party, became Postmaster General in 2020 after a recommendation from ex-President Donald Trump's office. He has suggested privatizing the USPS. In March of the following year, DeJoy presented his 10-year strategy to reduce costs. That includes delaying deliveries, streamlining mail processing operations, and cutting down additional delivery rounds. DeJoy defended the plan, claiming it would save $160 billion in a decade, making the USPS more competitive against private delivery companies. A 3-judge panel has endorsed a new Alabama congressional map, which will be implemented for the 2024 elections. This decision comes after the U.S. Supreme Court's verdict and Alabama Republicans' refusal to adjust the state's racially biased districts. In 2022, Alabama's GOP-led legislature was ordered by a federal district court to create a new congressional map. The previous map was criticized for minimizing black voting strength. The judge's move establishes a second opportunity district that enhances the prospects for black voters to elect a second black congressional representative. This is a milestone not achieved since Reconstruction. Though the new map does not establish a second majority black district, it features a district where more than 48% of the voting age population is black. History suggests that the majority preferred candidate amongst the black voters has been successful in 16 of the last 17 elections in this district. Similar map disputes rooted in racial biases are ongoing in states like Georgia, Florida, and Louisiana. Low-income families in the United States were audited more heavily than millionaires by the IRS during ex-President Donald Trump's final year in office. An analysis by Americans for Tax Fairness found that this shift in audit focus was due to several budget cuts pushed through by Republicans. These left the IRS underfunded and understaffed. As a result, processing complicated tax returns from the wealthy has become more challenging. Analysis shows that audits of millionaires have declined by 92% over the past decade. Despite accounting for 1/6 of the country's total household income, millionaires in the United States are currently audited less than 1% of the time. To counter the underfunding, the Democratic Party, with the support of President Joe Biden, has approved an $80 billion budget increase for the IRS over the next decade. The Republican Party has actively sought out to reverse the budget increase while expressing concerns about IRS's intentions. They have introduced proposals in the House of Representatives to cut the IRS budget by $67 billion. CARE Minnesota has filed a lawsuit against a federal correctional facility in Minnesota for violating religious rights. It is accusing FCI Wasika of forcing a Muslim woman to remove her hijab for a photo that was then used on her ID card. Mona Jama, a Somali-American Muslim woman, is required to present this card at various activities at the facility. It shows her photo without hijab to male staff, which causes her great distress. Although Jama is permitted to wear her hijab at the facility, her repeated requests and numerous complaints about her photo remain unanswered. The lawsuit alleges the prison has violated the Free Exercise Clause of the U.S. Constitution and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. CARE is calling for the removal of Jama's non-hijab photos from the facility's database and the end of such practices. U.S.-India relations strained over India-Canada row. Detail comes after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. The U.S. ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, has reportedly expressed concern about a possible deterioration of relations with India. This is due to ongoing diplomatic tensions between New Delhi and Canada. Politico reports that Garcetti has suggested limiting contacts with Indian officials indefinitely. However, the U.S. Embassy in India has denied these claims. It says Garcetti and the U.S. mission to India are working tirelessly to deepen relations between the two countries. Tension has been caused by deteriorating relations between India and Canada. Last month, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused India of being involved in the murder of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in the province of British Columbia. India has strongly denied these allegations, calling them absurd and motivated. As a result, the diplomatic relations have deteriorated, leading to the expulsion of diplomats from both India and Canada. India has also temporarily stopped issuing visas to Canadian citizens and called on Canada to reduce its diplomatic presence in India. Senior U.S. officials have urged India and Canada to resolve their differences bilaterally. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar discussed the matter. A State Department spokesperson said the U.S. relationship with India is an important strategic and consequential partnership. An Islamic cultural center in West London reports that an apparent Islamophobic attack was carried out on its property on September 26th. Residents say they saw the front door of Al Falah Institute smashed, donation boxes forced open, and other items damaged. Community sources say that copies of the Quran were collected in a room and set on fire, causing considerable distress in the community. Trustee and chairwoman of the Institute, Mariam Tariq, expressed her deep sorrow over the desecration of the Holy Scriptures. Police currently believe the fire to be arson and linked to the earlier burglary. Recent Home Office data suggests that anti-Muslim hate crimes are on the rise in the UK. They accounted for more than a third of all religiously motivated hate crimes between 2022 and 2023. A Muslim census report also notes that 35% of mosques in the UK experience at least one attack each year. French Muslim political scientist Nabil El-Nasri and Moroccan-born writer Jean-Pierre were charged with multiple counts 48 hours after they were arrested by police in Paris. The National Financial Prosecutor's Office has charged El-Nasri and Duthian with lobbying, embezzlement, private corruption, and money laundering. El-Nasri was arrested while Duthian was released under judicial supervision. Duthian's lawyers say the charges against their client were unfounded. El-Nasri's lawyer says his client was currently exercising his right to remain silent. El-Nasri has set out by bicycle from Paris to Mecca in Saudi Arabia to draw attention to global warming and to retrace the historic Muslim pilgrimage route. The United Nations has reported that the ongoing conflict in Sudan has resulted in the world's most rapidly escalating displacement crisis. The UN Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan, Clementine Nikweta Salami, highlighted that approximately 5.4 million individuals have been displaced due to the conflict. She also notes that an alarming 50% of Sudanese are in dire need of humanitarian assistance and protection. The health infrastructure in Sudan has also been severely affected, with 70% of all hospitals now non-operational. Tensions related to the integration of the paramilitary rapid support forces into the military instigated the conflict in April. There are growing concerns that the conflict might extend to regions like Jazeera, a significant agricultural hub for Sudan, which could then lead to serious implications for food security. Additionally, recent heavy rains and floods have impacted over 70,000 individuals across 7 states. Emphasizing the urgency of the situation, Nikweta Salami says that without sufficient global solidarity, Sudan might face irreparable catastrophe. A drone strike on a military college in Homs, Syria, during a graduation ceremony killed more than 100 people and injured over 200. Several of the injured are in critical condition, raising concerns of a rising death toll. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the assault. The Syrian military believes international forces-backed fighters were behind the attack. Following the incident, Syria's defense forces targeted opposition-controlled areas in northwest Syria, resulting in additional casualties. In related news, the U.S. reported shooting down an armed Turkish drone near its forces in northeast Syria. Tensions escalated as Turkish strikes targeted areas in Syria in retaliation for a bombing in Ankara, which Turkey attributes to the Kurdistan Workers' Party. The U.S. supports Syrian democratic forces led by Kurdish forces, causing friction with Turkey. The Turkish Defense Ministry reported destroying multiple targets in northern Syria later in the day. The 2023 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Iranian rights activist Narges Mohammadi. The Norwegian Nobel Committee highlighted her relentless efforts and sacrifices. It noted that she has been arrested 13 times, convicted 5 times, and is currently serving a prison sentence totaling more than 30 years with an additional 154 lashes. A prominent figure in the Iranian human rights movement, Mohammadi's journey has been fraught with challenges. She has been separated from her family, including her husband and their children, for years. Her husband, who is also an activist, currently resides in France with their children due to the threats they face in Iran. Mohammadi has used her incarceration as a platform to promote change and awareness. From her cell, she has published research on the detrimental effects of solitary confinement and the conditions of prisons in Iran. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.